let's talk first about this rush to judgment against these students, and beyond the developments about how this is all a big lie and no one was chanting racist things, and this activist is a rabid left-wing loon, which we learned more about. Beyond that, what is this really all about? What's the end game for the left in singling out Catholic pro-life kids who obviously support the president? What do they really want?
Well, the modern left believes in tribalism. So you've had 3 Democratic senators explain that if you're Catholic, you probably really shouldn't be a U.S. judge because your values are wrong. You have people in news media who hate the church. And you have a general willingness to condemn people and stereotype them. It's a little bit like the attitude towards Trump. There are liberals who wake up every morning saying, I know he did something terrible. What was it? But it's just automatic. So here you have a case where these young people were apparently, when you see the full 2-hour video, they were amazingly responsible, very, very nice. Yet even their own school fell susceptible to the initial wave of panic and talked about expelling them, about all sorts of things, when there was no information, which is also part of what's going on. This is the Duke lacrosse team all over again, and other cases. If you are the wrong kind of person, which generally means white and male, we know you did something bad automatically. And if you're the right kind of person, we know that you couldn't have done something wrong, and therefore we automatically are for you. And that's sort of the state of the current culture.
Well, what I think they really want to do, the left and the media who support them and cover for them, I think they want to make conservatism, not just Trump, but the pro-life movement, conservatism, so toxic and so charged with racial connotations and so forth that young people become almost scared to be part of it. It's a type of profiling that they're doing of kids wearing MAGA hats, and if you're white, you look a certain way. It's like the deplorables, the unwashed. They're the lepers of the of the culture and politics. So the young kids coming up, even if they kind of believe this stuff, might not want to go to a march. They might not want to go to a political rally that's supporting a Republican, because the Lord knows what's going to happen to them. I think it's an attempt to intimidate the next generation away from conservative ideals.
Well, and it's done with the broadest kind of very strong moral language. I mean, you're xenophobic, you're racist, you're Islamophobic, you're homophobic. Whatever it is, all these get wrapped together, and then you can't have a conversation. And so I think you're right. There's been a very big effort on the left in both the news media, the Hollywood community, and the academic world to create a framework in which you almost feel bad if you actually believe what you actually believe.
And by the way, some of these freshman congresswomen, Newt, are so rabid, so out there, that they choose to jump on this issue, tie it all to Trump. And this Ilhan Omar, who is a historic first Muslim American representative, she's from Minnesota, she tweeted out yesterday that the boys were protesting a woman's right to choose and yelled, "It's not rape if you enjoy it." They were taunting 5 black protesters, etc. Well, all of that was false. Someone said that was not one of the Covington kids. It's not rape if you enjoy it. Obviously talking about consent, but poorly, stupidly said. And no one was taunting the black protesters who were screaming incest babies and ridiculing Catholic priests. And she finally deleted the smear, but only Newt when I tweeted in response to her, wrong, kids screaming, that wasn't a Covington student. Will she correct this tweet, or do freshman Democratic congresswomen get held to different standards? And the hashtag smear machine. Newt, what if I had done something like that? Do you think I'd still be on the air?
No, and of course that's the double standard that exists right now. One of the more radical Democratic freshmen was told that her facts were wrong, and she said, well, that doesn't matter because I'm morally right. And if I'm morally right, that overrides facts. And I think they actually believe it. I don't think this is just stuff they say. Mm-hmm. I think they really live in their own minds in a world where as long as they're morally pure, who are the rest of us to complain?
Over the weekend, you had Bernie Sanders making this comment.
Today we talk about justice, and today we talk about racism. And I must tell you, it gives me no pleasure to tell you that we now have a president of the United States who is a racist.
This is a presidential candidate. And then they add that the MAGA hat is like a KKK hood. But we wonder why this is the state of affairs, and they blame Trump for it, of course.
Well, I think that in their mind, they're totally correct. I think people underestimate the degree to which we're now in a cultural civil war. People on the left say things that are objectively crazy, but inside their worldview make perfect sense. And this is building towards, I think, an enormous crisis for the society at large. I mean, as I said a while ago, and I wrote a newsletter about this last week, you had 3 Democratic senators basically saying you can't really be Catholic and serve as a U.S. judge.
Right.
Now, for some reason, blatant anti-Catholicism is not bigotry. And yet what they said, I think, was fully as bigoted as anything that got Steve King in trouble. But the news media just glosses over it. And I think that's because the news media is in their world, on their side, and that we're drifting towards some very intense, I think, confrontations.
Newt, I got to talk to you about the shutdown, and we have another migrant caravan with thousands in it demanding entry into the United States. They busted into Mexico. Mexico's clearly not doing really much of anything, contrary to what we thought, that they were working with us. But they're going to keep coming and coming and coming until we have asylum reform passed, until we have a wall and all the other things we need. But we're in this standoff, and how does this get solved? What should the president do if you were advising him?
Well, I think the president ought to continue to build pressure on the objective fact of criminals coming across the border, and about pressure about human trafficking and about drugs, and continue to pound away at it. And I think that you see some initial breaks already with individual Democrats starting to say, look, I can vote for the wall. We got to do something to get this solved. And I think if the president stands firm, he will presently win. I think the commitment they've made now on the Dreamers was a step towards getting Democrats to vote for him. And I think at some point in the very near future, you're likely to see some kind of agreement, which if you have divided government, everybody's got to win a little bit or nothing gets done. But I think that the Pelosi hardline position will lose. And I think the real model is to think of Kevin McCarthy plus 30 Democrats being the majority. That's when Reagan was president. We didn't get much out of Tip O'Neill, but we were able to beat him on the floor. And that enabled us to continue to govern. And I think that's got to be the model that Trump follows, to figure out, can I find 7 Democrats in the Senate? Can I find 30 Democrats in the House? And ignore the leadership. Mm-hmm. Just up front stipulate the leadership is never going to be good to Trump, because they can't be. Their activist wing won't let them be.
So the question is, how do you whip those votes? How do you get those votes? Because they'll point to public opinion polls that CBS online poll, whatever, 2/3 of the country blame Trump for the shutdown. So they keep whipping those reports, even though I happen to have talked to a lot of people across the country, and people aren't blaming it.
There have been at least a dozen House members already who've said they could vote for something. And we're just, you get to a point where you're just fed up with it. They're fed up watching their leaders not do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that gradually grinds away at them.
Yeah, well, I hope there's, well, I hope there's enough moderate Democrats. Newt, before we let you go, the State of the Union, the President and the White House planning to go ahead with it, but I guess the details are up in the air. Anything? I thought it was significant that the number 2 Democrat, Steny Hoyer, said he thought that they ought to go ahead and give it, that they ought to have the president come. Now, I predict if they do have the president come, it'll be the most raucous reception in the history of the State of the Union. I mean, the idea of this new freshman left wing sitting through a speech by Donald Trump. No, they're going to scream.
It will truly be a spectacle.
No. They want to make it a spectacle. They're going to turn their backs or not show up or boo or I mean, yeah. Look, if they're sending out tweets like the one that Ilhan Omar sent out last night, if they're sending out these tweets and they have these emojis, I mean, they're like they're 13 years old. These tweets. This is like a 13-year-old would just jump on these things. It's not extremely sophisticated stuff, but it's a new generation of activists. It's Obama community activism, community organizing with social media and with a really strong ingredient of radicalism. I mean, Obama's a moderate compared to these folks, but they're all pushing him.
That's right.
More to the left too. I mean, he's sounding more left wing every day.
Nancy Pelosi, remember, Pelosi spent her entire career as a San Francisco liberal, and now she's under pressure from her left. I mean, think about how disorienting that is.
Hey, Newt, have you seen any of the movies nominated for the Academy Awards? We're looking at the list of the films.
I don't know who's been nominated, but I don't think I have.
Well, things like Green Book,
Black Panther.
What else? Favorite.
The Favorite.
I keep looking at these movies. I don't think I've seen one of them.
Vice.
Well, that's about Cheney. So one's about in Roma, so it's about immigration, Cheney, racial issues, and it's become a panoply of left-wing causes that in movies that. And Black Panther made a lot of money, but most of these are art house films that just nobody sees. It's wild.
But they express the deeply held values of the Hollywood community, and it makes them feel good. I mean, somebody once said, when you make enough money in Hollywood, the next stage is to have sort of feeling good about yourself by making the kind of films that your friends will like. And it doesn't matter. Since you've already made the money, it doesn't matter. But nobody's going to see them.
Oh, no, it's just ridiculous.
It's just, it's a different world. It's not the world you and I grew up in.
No, it's not. And we have to, I think it's easy to get discouraged, and people come up to me and they do get discouraged. And we have to say, to them, look, every generation has had to fight for freedom and liberty, and this is your chance to do that. And you can't get demoralized. But I think this idea that people should be in a defensive crouch and not expose what the left is doing is, forget it. I mean, you got to expose this, and were it not for people like you and Fox News and talk radio and podcasts, I mean, I don't know where we'd be. I really don't.
Well, I think that's right, and I think we're living in an era where we're literally going to have to fight this out. And the other side believes deeply what they believe, and they are prepared to fight for it. And we're going to have to show the same level of courage.
How's Callista doing? Is she loving her job? Ambassador to the Holy See?
She's working very, very hard. She loves being the ambassador to the Vatican. As a devout Catholic, it's very hard to imagine it being better than what she's living through. And she's fascinated by all the different things that are going on. The Vatican actually is a worldwide post, because the Church has 1.3 billion people. It's in every country in the world. So Every single day for her is a new education. It's
Wow.
remarkable. I'm very proud of her. She's really doing well.
Well, and Newt is on a plane a lot, by the way. He is traveling. Oh my
Yes.
God. Newt, well, you get all your reading done. You get so much work done on a plane these days because you don't have a lot of interruptions. But Newt, I hope I see you in person soon. And thank you so much for joining us on the Laura Ingraham
Look forward to it.
podcast. Really appreciate it.